Okay, just for those of you who are watching the recording, we're going to go a little off the agenda schedule because Noah has to leave. He has another meeting. So go ahead, Noah.
Okay, great. And I'm sorry, let me actually pull up the email from Rosa.
I have to admit, when Rosa first brought this up, I panicked a little bit. One of my classes was on her list. And also I had all these scary thoughts that a bunch of our classes were no longer going to fill because of this. But it is serious enough for us to think about it, but it's not the horrible, scary thing that I imagined it at the very beginning, right, Noah?
I hope not. Yeah. It is a lot of work though. So I have it here. But first of all, good morning, everybody. I hope your semester's off to a great start. And it's October, the best month of the year, in my opinion. Because it's also my birthday month.
Happy birthday.
If I could be, thank you. It's October 25th. So I celebrate all month though, as my partner will begrudgingly tell you. Can I share screen? It says host disabled. Screen share.
Oh, I'm sorry. Here. There you go.
Okay. So Rosa reached out. Rosa is our articulation officer with Gavilan College. And there is a movement in the California higher education system to align the transfer pathway for the California CSUs with the University of California system. So right now, the general education pattern that students take are different, depending on if they're going to a CSU or a UC. And the idea is that in order to give students more options and to better align the this higher ed systems and to make it easier for students to transition from the community college to a four-year, the systems are going to merge the general education requirements between CSUs and UCs. And so right now there's, again, separate general education patterns. The new pattern is going to be called CalGETC, California General Education Transfer Curriculum. And so there's they're going to have a set of courses that are approved for general education requirements under CalGETC. What that means is that right now we have several courses in fine arts that are CSU approved to be general ed courses for the general ed pathway, but they are not UC approved to be general ed courses. Now the courses are transferable, so they do transfer to both CSUs and UCs, but for a lot of the courses that are CSU general ed courses and not UC approved general ed courses, those courses transfer to the UCs as electives. So they don't count for any of the areas under the UC general ed requirement. So basically what's going to happen is the two systems merge. So there's going to be the CalGETC general ed, and we have several courses in fine arts that they do not anticipate are going to be approved for general ed requirements. So they'll still be transferable, but again, what that means is that students transfer those units as electives and they wouldn't take them as general ed requirements, which could impact our enrollment.
Yeah, they also will transfer as for your AAT degrees. So we have to have a certain number of classes that aren't I don't know how to explain that, but there are units that we require for our individual degrees that our students are required to take. Some of them will no longer be count as general education.
Yeah, exactly. So the classes will still count towards our majors.
Right.
So let me share my screen and I'll follow up and send this out by way of email to our discipline leads. It's pretty tiny. Okay. So the highlighted courses are the courses that we are anticipating will not be approved as general ed courses under the new CalGETC, but they're currently approved under the CSU system. So again, they're not approved for the UCs as general ed courses, and so they're anticipating these courses will not be approved as general ed under CalGETC. The largest impact is to our studio arts programs. And there's I think six courses there. The second largest impact is to theater, that you can see we have a couple in music as well. So again, I'll send these out to the discipline leads in each of these areas, and so we can have further conversations. But what we're going to ask is that we think about whether we want to update any of the curriculum to try to get it approved under the new CalGETC. And basically, if you think about, what gets approved for the UCs, they are more theory-based in courses. They don't generally approve some of the more technical courses. So some of the classes, of course, in fine arts, we teach technical skills in arts. And so some of the courses will count towards the major. And we'll keep them, students will still enroll in these classes because they have to in order to complete their major, but they're not going to be taken as general ed. So what we've talked to Rosa about is looking at these classes that are impacted, again, the highlighted ones, and seeing, one, are there any here that are really strong with enrollments? Like we're getting a lot of students. We want to look at those classes in particular to see, do we want to update them to make sure that they remain an option for general ed if we're getting a lot of students in them right now. We also want to look at any classes that are not part of a major, because again, if students aren't required to take them as part of their major and they're also not general ed approved, the odds of students taking them are pretty slim, and so the enrollment is going to diminish significantly. So again, we'll send this off by email, but the two things we're looking for is, one, are there any classes that are really strong on enrollment that we want to look at updating so that they continue to be approved? Or two, are there any that are not tied to a major that we want to look at in order to update? Basically, what updating means is looking at the curriculum. Rosa would help us to find examples from other colleges. So for example, Max, Rosa mentioned Art 3A, drawing and composition. She found some other courses at community colleges that do have this approved under the UC IDETSI. So if we want to make it more, if we want to emphasize some of the cultural and historical pieces of drawing and composition, along with the technical skills, we would modify the course curriculum to emphasize that side a little bit more in order to try to get it approved as a general ed course. So that's the quick summation of our conversation. I know there's a lot of details and nuts and bolts that we can get into at a later time, but we just want to give you a heads up and let you know that this email is going to be coming out, and see if you have any questions.
What's the timeline for getting these back through curriculum to be approved?
Yeah, that's a good question. So we'll send out the email. What we're asking is that if folks could take a look at the classes and decide which ones we might want to update by the end of next week, Friday the 13th. Once we've identified which classes we want to update, Rosa is going to help us by finding similar courses at other community colleges that have been approved as general ed under IDETSI, and so we can have some models to look at. And so she would get that to us by the end of October, and then our hope would be that in November we actually update the curriculum and launch it in Curricunet so that it makes it through curriculum committee by the end of this semester.
Noah, do you have that list that she sent out, a document talking about the criteria?
Yeah, I'll forward this because this is the criteria is down here.
There you go.
Also. Yeah. So these courses that are not approved are, again, more on the technical side. So if you think about the UCs and their kind of curriculum, it's more theory based. So courses that fulfill the arts requirement are going to have emphasis on history, theory, aesthetics, criticism. Okay, so just want to give you a heads up that's coming down the pipe. I mean, ultimately, it's good for the students. We're gonna have just one transfer. General ed pathway for students instead of them having to decide, are they going the CSU route, the UC route? It gives them more options when it comes time for them to actually transfer.
You have to leave in 3 minutes, right, Noah?
Yeah, probably 2 minutes.
Okay, so in the last 2 minutes is about the schedule. Any questions for Noah about the schedule?
Well, if I can say, huge thank you to all of the program leads and for putting together the schedule, and to you, Cecilia, who's doing the laborious work of putting everything into Banner and making sure it's accurate. So that's happening now. The next milestone is the week of October 23rd. Cecilia and I should have the drafts complete. And what we'll do is that week, we'll send out the lasers to Jan and Grant, and we'll send them out to the program leads. And what we'll ask everybody to do is to put your eyes on the draft schedule. Make sure everything looks correct in terms of the times, the dates, your rooms, all that sort of stuff. We'd like to catch any errors that week, the week of October 23rd, because the schedule is supposed to go live the following week. And so we want to catch any errors, I think the end of the following week. So we want to catch any errors before the schedule is published. So again, the week of the 23rd is our next milestone for the schedule. That's when you'll be getting the lasers.
Any last questions for Noah before he has to go? All right, thanks Noah for
Thanks so much.
joining us.
Have a good morning.
Okay, let's go back to the top of the agenda, exciting news and events. That's how we always start our meetings. What things are happening in your program that you want to tell all us about?
If I can just plug Jazz at Gavilan, everyone. It's scheduled for a month out from now on Thursday evening, November 2nd. It's going to feature the Sobrato High School jazz band, and also I'm going to be bringing in a quartet featuring a really great trumpet player, Mike Olmos. It's a big trumpet player in the Bay Area scene. So if you could let your students know, I'd really appreciate it. I should have flyers within the next couple of days.
Thank you. One of the things that I wanted to share is I'm sure a lot of you have seen that we now have Gav TV News on the homepage at Gavilan. And so we are going to be having a new story every week. We're trying to jam in several stories that we've already completed, that there's been a little bit of a bottleneck in trying to get approvals and such. But I just thought I would share really quickly our schedule so you can see what it is that we do. And then if there are things that you would like. So David mentioned the jazz concert. We're on November 2nd and we'll be there. And then on the 8th, the story will be on the homepage. Let's see. There's going to be a music recital on December 7th. We'll be there and film it, and it will be there on the 13th. The art exhibit, we're on October 13th. We're going to be filming that and releasing the story. So I hear about fine arts events more, and so they get on our schedule. But let's make sure that they do. In the spring, we have the piano competition on the 3rd, Bach to Blues on the 16th. We have our two film, the film showcase, the communications alumni speakers. Those are all fine arts events. So let me know about these. If you get on the schedule before somebody else, you kind of have dibs. So let us know about the things that you want covered, so that everyone can hear about them. We are going to do promotional things. So, for example, we're going to film the piano competition and then include that plus a promo for Bach to Blues, which is the following week. So there'll be advertising for Bach the Blues, and then we will have a story on the actual concert itself. So let me know if you want things covered. But what other exciting things are happening in your areas?
Like you mentioned there, I'll piggyback. Friday the 13th, 6 to 8 in the library. There is the Nacho Moya event. The thing that makes me really happy is that we have the gallery stipend back this semester. So we're going to start putting up 2 shows in the gallery every semester. This one was picked mostly by Dr. Avila, and he's planning the event along with Rosie and them. So I'm kind of taking a back seat on it. But if you wanted to come check out the reception, and I believe they're doing an artist talk, that'll be Friday the 13th from 6 o'clock to 8 o'clock. It'd be nice to have some warm bodies there. So if you want to come look at it, if you don't have a chance to make the reception, go check out the paintings in the gallery. It's nice to have stuff back in there, I think. And we're looking forward to planning some other shows kind of as going forward. So that's cool. And we also have the gallery assistants class back up. So there's 5 people right now signed up. We're very excited about learning how to set up shows and hang paintings and all that kind of thing. So it's really cool to have that back. And then just non-promotional, but I think it's the great thing to happen is we finally got approved for a ceramics tech. I've been pushing for this for I don't know how many years, but there's an incredible amount of work that goes on behind the scenes in ceramics. And every single other school has a ceramics tech, most of them full-time. A little bit of the pushback I got was, oh, well, Gavilan's smaller than say like, West Valley or De Anza or Foothill. So I contacted all of the schools that are smaller than Gavilan, and 8 of them have ceramics programs, and they all have paid techs as well. So that makes us the only school in the California Community College system without one. But we will have one now. So it's just going to be 10 hours a week, but that's way better than no hours a week. And I've been kind of scraping by on volunteers and advanced students and stuff like that. But, spending 12 hours a week outside of my class time, like mixing glazes and doing stuff like that is not sustainable. So this is a good thing. So anyway, I just wanted to share that.
So Max, I had the same kind of issue. I could not get help with things. Something you might also consider is an embedded tutor.
Mhm.
So you take someone who's taken your ceramics classes, and then they're there to assist and can help. Now, they're not being paid to do a lot of the labor, but they are there doing it with you, so they can help. For years I didn't think, I don't need a tutor. What would that person do? And now I love the fact that Sophie's helping us do it. So that's another way to get more help.
Yeah, no, we have a version of that. We have volunteers, and we've had really helpful ones to not so helpful ones on and off. It's a very similar thing where they sign paperwork and they're not paid to do it, and they show up and they help out both with student issues and also with behind the scenes stuff. But yeah, we just need somebody who's dedicated. So
Great.
Great.
Congratulations on getting that finally, and
Yeah.
we'll hopefully the hours will increase.
Mhm.
So that's great. Anyone else have news they want to share? Jan and I then take this to department chairs and other places and let everyone know. So when you give us information, we can then spread the word. So when you have things, let us know. The next agenda item was what Noah was talking about. Rosa's talking about the Cal Getsy. Jan and I sat in on all those meetings, not as knowledgeable as Noah, but maybe if you still have questions, Jan and I can answer them now.
Grant, do you know why they're all of a sudden making this change?
Yeah, because they're combining.
Hey Grant, before you go there,
Yeah.
I got in a little bit late. I was finishing class. I just caught the tail end. I didn't catch the beginning. What's going on?
So for years, they had what the UC system was accepting and what the CSU system was accepting. Now the Cal GETSI combines the two. So if a class meets that requirement, they can get it. That class can be used for any UC or CSU school. So this is going to become the norm. They're trying to streamline it, and basically the CSU system was way more lenient, they open to a lot of a large variety of classes, especially the fine arts programs. And the Cal GETSI is going to basically go with the UC system's strict adherence to the general education. And so even though all those classes on that list will be accepted to both UC and CSU, they can't be counted as general education classes. Those are the big classes. Those are the ones that will have a lot of students, non-majors. So you asked the question, David. You have some classes that are just your music majors, or people who are interested in music but not really thinking about using that class to transfer to university. But then there'll be classes where you get students from all over the campus because they have to take a general education course. That's what we're worried about, is those classes where, and imagine, right, you might have a class that will have very large enrollment because students are counting on that as their general education class. And suddenly that goes away. If that class is not on the list, those students won't take your classes anymore. So the guideline for UC is that it's much more, it's about the historical element, and it looks at, and it's not skill-based. So it's not playing instruments or creating art. It is well, Jan, how would you want to, can you scroll down, Jan, because the bottom explains it a bit more.
Oh, I just shared this as a screen grab for Albert to see. I can't scroll down.
Oh, okay.
I can stop sharing if Jan wants to bring it up.
I don't have it as handy as you do. We can just look at this. There are standards down at the bottom to meet, and you can all look at that as programs. But if you think of theory and culture and historical and contextual classes that do a lot of exploration versus skills-based classes where you are learning to draw, you are learning like ceramics 7A, that it is not on the UC side, it's not considered a transferable GE class. And so in aligning both CSU and UC, now we've got some running room because, and it's going to take some time to get those classes that we want to correct through the pipeline, but we have running room over this next semester plus spring 24. And Rosa was on top of it immediately and alerting us to this because of all the areas across Gavilan. Fine arts is the most impacted. And it's making the choice, and I think Noah laid it out really well. Do you have classes that are skills-based that a student is taking as a GE requirement? And you're all probably thinking, how will I know that? And we don't. The counselors know that. The students may know that. And they may have chosen, yeah, I'd much rather take ceramics with Max than, and list another class that would qualify as that GE elective requirement. How to align these, we don't know yet. But Rosa is going to do the research. And those are the two dates to keep in mind. Between now and Friday the 13th, identify the classes that you think are students across the general population that are taking it for GE credit, and you don't know necessarily to transfer, but assume yes. And how will you adapt based on those standards that are down at the bottom? And as she goes through and we identify classes, she's going to scan everyone who's already been UC approved, look at their curriculum and see if we can align ours here at Gavilan with the examples that Rosa gives us. Did that help a little?
Yeah, if you look at just the art classes, art history 1A and 1B, and art 6 and art 21, they're all history or appreciation classes. And the ones that are highlighted are ones that are more skill-based. I would imagine beginning photography is how to take good pictures, how to use the cameras. The one that kind of surprised me is the cultural history of ceramics.
Yeah, that shouldn't be on the list. That one's actually that gets you approved at a lot of the other schools. I based it off one from DVC, and so that one is mostly theory and history based. Actually, they do more of that than they do actual making of clay. So that 100% shouldn't be there. But
So
I think we also might try to go back because some of our big draws are the 3A and the 13. We might try to sort of formulate those. So you're saying by the 13th, do we need to send Rosa, and we'll CC you both, just a list of the ones that we're going to try to challenge? We don't have to have any backup anything. We don't have to say why. We're just going to say these are the ones that we need to.
right.
Okay.
And I think the pathway, if I heard Noah correctly, is if we can identify and send them to Noah, and he can move them on to and CCS, and he can move them on to Rosa, and it is hundreds of items for her to search. So this is for her very time consuming, a really deep dive, and she's on top of it, but she just give her as much time as you can.
Yeah.
What did she say? 240 pages, Grant?
Yeah.
Yeah. 240
And
pages of schools to go through.
Yeah, and she's gone through 10 pages. So, and she's talked about the number of hours she's already put in. So, she's going to do the work, but we want to narrow it she doesn't want to be searching for classes that we don't intend to change. Yeah, something we need to work on. I asked questions about the class schedule to Noah. We all have them in now. Do any of you have any questions for Jan in particular about the class schedule? Good. Seems like, what was the date he gave? It's October 23rd, I think.
And a shout out really quick, because he said it, and he said like the detailed work, and Cecilia is here. Cecilia has in 2 years come into the division assistant position in such a stellar way. And so I want to give to her in our department meeting a real shout out, because she is the backbone of making sure these schedules move through without correction. And yes, indeed, David. And Grant and I started during the beginning of the pandemic with a relatively untrained division assistant and no team. And it was rocky there. And the back end of what we had to do is now what Cecilia is doing every single day. And so kudos to Cecilia. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, and I know that a lot of you are interested in the when we get the lasers, and that is October 23rd. And Cecilia, do you know how long we'll have once we have the lasers?
I can check real quick.
My guess is it's about a week. She's doing her stuff where we can't see what she's touching.
Yeah.
No,
We're just working on that right now.
In the mountains.
um,
Careful
No
with the
worries.
water behind you there.
but we will get to fine tune it if there's a wrong room or the time is slightly different, or you want a note under your class, that's the time when we can make sure that everything is just right.
And
It'll be
previous,
the, I'm
Go
so
ahead.
sorry, the 23rd to the 27th. So it'll be that week. You guys will get it around that week
Yeah,
to review.
just a few days. We got to make sure that at that point everything is kind of perfect before it goes live for students.
so they'll come to me, I will send them out to you, you send them out to your additional faculty, you program leads, and turn them around as quickly as you can, because the corrections process takes just as much time as the entry process. And Cecilia handles fine arts, social sciences, and STEM. And did I miss one?
You're muted.
Sorry, English.
English. Okay. And so that means that all of us may be coming back with some corrections. What helped this semester was our dean chose to meet with all the program leads in first few weeks of the semester. He would like to accelerate that calendar of meeting into when we meet again next spring to plan summer fall 24. If you can, as crazy as it gets, meet the second and or the third week, and that on our side speeds up the planning process, and it gives the division assistant Cecilia and all the others who are doing this more time for this incredibly complex data entry. And now I'm going to add one little wrinkle, and I know Cecilia probably knows about this, but mentioned at department chairs yesterday. They are going to be implementing a new Banner software. They're going to go to Banner 9.
Right.
And that oven by itself is a challenging move. And so, the counselors are going to work on it now, but that will impact scheduling as well. So thank you, Cecilia, for everything you do for all of us.
Thank you. That's kind of you. Appreciate it.
All right. If there are no more questions about that, I was asked to put as a discussion item the best practices for HyFlex classes. Is there anyone here who teaches HyFlex? I did teach HyFlex classes for several semesters. I'm now teaching the dual modality, which I prefer. So if you are thinking about doing it, I've done it many times and can talk about it. But the dual modality is kind of the what I've switched to. So
Distance Ed meets once a month on the first Thursday, and they've invited the person who wrote the book on HyFlex and blended classes. And if you're interested, you can either reach out to me and I can forward on the DE information, or you can reach out to Sabrina and ask to attend. It's at 2:00 this Thursday. And it should be, if you haven't done it, if you're interested in it, if you would like to know its history and its background, he is considered the expert on it. And Grant at our college has been the one that has pioneered doing it in classroom. So let us know.
Brett,
Yeah,
is there actually gonna be any training for that?
Yes.
We can, so there is, okay.
yeah. I'll tell you what I actually did for High Flex. I actually taught in SS 214, and there was no equipment there. So they are going to have High Flex classrooms. But I kind of brought my portable studio. I would wear a lavalier, a kind of a lapel mic. I would bring my own laptop, which is kind of a souped up computer. And I didn't even use the camera from the computer like I am now. I used a very good studio camera that I own, and that plugged into my laptop. So I had really good sound and audio. And with the flexibility of having a separate camera, I could spin it around and show students when they ask questions or the activities that were happening. In some of my lecture classes, I could do it all by myself. But when we did High Flex for the film production classes, and I was busy doing things, I often had an assistant. I would take one of my camera operators, and that person would operate the camera to kind of frame things so that the students online could watch. Or Geronimo, I know a lot of you know him. He was often in the class with us. So if it's an activities-based class, you really need a second person to help assist. And you have to think of the camera as another student. So, you know, when you're teaching, you're scanning the room and making eye contact. You have to look at the camera and make eye contact, and you always have to be aware of the questions in the chat, or listen for students who turn on their microphone and ask questions. It was helpful because, for example, Geronimo would be there, and so like Jan just put something in the chat. If I was busy and I didn't see it, Geronimo would say, "There's a question for you online." And that made it, you know, very successful. But I had really nice equipment, and always had, not so much for the lecture classes, but the activities classes, always had at least a person helping me. But what it enabled me to do is have as many people as I wanted in the class, and as many people at home who could join in and participate. And so I thought it was effective, but I like the dual modality now. I have students who are taking the classes completely asynchronously, and I'm also teaching in the classroom. So I will Zoom for those few students who want to join, but then I record and upload the recordings so that students don't need to be there at a particular time. They can still observe what we're doing in class. And then we shoot BTS, behind the scenes footage of all activities, and make videos every week. So it's time consuming, but we feel like we're reaching all of our students now in a variety of formats. So that's what we've done. Anyone have any questions about High Flex or? Okay. Then let's move on to the next agenda item. I think after this were just reports. And the first two reports or Sharice, and she's not here, GCFA, I haven't heard of anything that they would report. If I will reach out to her and see if there is, and I will send it via email. If she has anything she wants us to hear. The same thing with the Senate, except that There's one issue that Jan and I have that we've discussed with Sharice several times, and I think Sharice is working on it, but there still isn't a resolution. The Brown Act is a bit of a problem. The Brown Act, it requires that voting members all be in person for meetings. Now, they had emergency exemption during COVID, but now that we're back, we cannot have Zoom option. So let me tell you when this is a problem. Jan, for example, is able to go to the curriculum,
Tech review.
tech review meetings, and I'm right in class at that time. So she's there nitty gritty going through our classes and making sure that they meet all the criteria that they will go through. Then I am the voting member at the curriculum meeting, so I go to those. But Jan, who was there for all the technical stuff in the tech review committee meetings, is not allowed to listen in. So for quite a while, they had a Zoom so that people could listen in, and then those faculty members, all of you probably experienced this, when you have a class that you've, say, doing a 5-year update, you've come to meetings or joined the Zooms so that if they have questions, because what quite often will happen is somebody will say, in the last meeting, for example, I said on a class that I reviewed, this sentence is confusing to me. I think we can clarify. And everyone started talking about it, and pretty soon they said, okay, we can't touch it, we'll just send it back. But if the faculty member who did the update was there, that person could say, oh no, if you add a comma here and change this word, it makes perfect sense. And that we don't have to wait for another 2 weeks before it happens again. And that happens a lot. I mean, do all of you want to come all the way on Mondays and sit through an 1.5-hour curriculum meeting in the business building? If you just happen to have one class going through, it seems a bit too much to ask. Now, I know why the voting members need to be there. That's part of the Brown Act, but they're not allowing us to Zoom so that people can join in or listen. And I think it's crazy. And so does Jan, so does Scott Sandler and Nick, the Knicks. And so we're fighting to see if we can have a Zoom option for those who want to observe the meetings or be there for questions. What do all of you think about that? No opinions?
I just agree with you. I think it's crazy that you can't do it by Zoom. So yeah.
Yeah, they won't even allow it. And so we're fighting to make sure that happens. And it might not seem like a big deal, but Jan and I both work on curriculum. By the way, there are the number of 5-year updates that have to go through are quite large. And if things are held up, there's a chance that classes might not be allowed to be offered in the fall, for example. So we want to make this a speedy process, and this is a roadblock. And Jan, you always say it's a equity issue too.
It is an equity issue, and I have gotten acceptance from the curriculum chair, and they have indicated they are bound by, as a subcommittee of the Academic Senate, they are bound by Brown Act. And so Academic Senate needs to move it forward. It is not to replace in person. It is to add a feature that we had during the pandemic. It doesn't take away from the requirement that the voting members be in the room. at the physical location where the meeting is announced 72 hours in advance, fulfilling a Brown Act requirement. It allows for more voices, including all faculty working on all curriculum, which means if any one of you had a hand in your curriculum, regardless of me sitting in on tech review and being able to participate by Zoom, and Grant being in the room ready to vote, if an issue came up during that curriculum meeting and you could Zoom in, but you were in, say, in between classes, but you couldn't physically get to Social Sciences 214, you too, as the creator of that curriculum, have something to add to a clarification. We do not want, especially with Grant mentioning that the 5-year updates that we need to move through, we don't want classes put into that funnel where they get strangled back to tech review period after period after period. And there have been a couple of fine arts classes that were really beaten up by the process. We want that obstacle removed. So if you feel the same, and as it comes up for academic senate debate and academic senate vote, your voice in however you want to offer it, through emails to Grant or to me, to emails to Sharice as academic president, academic senate president, that will help move this conversation forward. We have the technology. We used it for the last 3 years. We shouldn't go backwards.
Also, well, the next agenda, our next report is curriculum. One of the things that I want to stress is, again, Jan and I highly recommend that you talk to us about your curriculum. We obviously have to sign it and before it can move forward, but I'm just going to give an example. Albert's here. In our last curriculum meeting, we did Spanish. I think it was 8A class, and there were a handful of questions, comments about the class. But because Albert and I have talked about the class, and I was kind of with him as he was doing his work, when they were small little things, I could say, "Oh no, I think Albert really wanted that," and so it went through. It passed. If I had not done that, I'm not sure how comfortable I would have been to say, "Oh, I know what Albert wanted for that particular class," and it might have been postponed. There is a lot of films on the, or films, sorry, that's a lot of classes on the agenda. And so when things get delayed, sometimes it can be a month or two more that it is before it comes up for a vote again. And so we really want to avoid the delays. So just a shout out, when you're working on your curriculum, let us know, and Jan will take it through tech review, and I will take it through the curriculum to make sure we can get these passed as fast as possible. Can you think of anything else with curriculum, Jan?
I think that covers it. Thank you.
The next report is department chairs, and a lot of what we've been talking about is what we discussed in department chairs: the spring schedule, the CalGETC pattern, faculty evaluation process, and then a few other issues that are not really relevant, but not a lot to say other than what we've already talked about with all those things.
Actually, Grant, just to make sure everybody's really clear, we are under a new contract, and the previous contract stipulated that adjunct faculty are reviewed initially, but after the initial every 3 semesters. And the reason that was built into the prior contract was because delaying their review held them up for track advancement. It has been corrected now. It's no longer, the track advancement is no longer a holdup. And adjunct faculty who have made it through initial plus subsequent review now move back to the old schedule where you are reviewed every 6th semester, not every 3rd semester. If you want to share that out with your adjuncts, that would be helpful. Thanks.
Yeah, good. Then there's the last report is budgets. Anything to report, Jan, on?
There was some delay in the budgeting and closing of books, and I will find out from Noah if that has been remedied.
Okay, reach out to Jan if you have questions or need anything for budgets. Our future meetings, we have 2 more this semester on Thursday, November 2nd at 9:30, and then Monday, December 4th at 9:30 are our next 2 meetings. We have talked about whether we want a holiday party at the end of the semester. I'm willing to host, or Denise is out there picking grapes right now. Maybe they're going to be ready for us to drink to celebrate the holidays. No, she can't hear me. But anyways, I would love to plan something if I feel like we can get some people who'd want to come. Any other comments or questions? Denise said she'll host. All right, that's it. Party at Denise's place.
Thank you, Denise.
I'll
Great.
bring some food and I know that David will, what is it you make? Chicken? Right, David? So we'll have, and David's thumbing that he will be our musical performance. So he'll play and we'll have some fun. So we'll plan that, let you know as we get closer to that. But any other questions, comments? All right, we're getting done early today. Please let us know if you want things on the agenda for our next meeting. I always send the request, but I really want to make sure that the Fine Arts Department is talking about the issues that you care most about, questions that you have, things that you worry about or would like us to discuss. So let me know, and I will make sure it's on the agenda. And I will invite the proper guest if we need someone who's going to explain or teach or whatever, so that we have a good discussion. All right.
Thank you, Jan.
Thanks, John.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you, Grant. Thank you, everybody, for being here today.